I'm with Tracey Ezard today. Thank you, Tracey, for joining me for this interview and for so generously donating your book to the Lockdown Library. It's fantastic to have it in there.
Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. What a great initiative. It was wonderful to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I've known you for a few years now, and it's fantastic to be able to have the chance to actually have a really good chat with you. You're a leadership expert, and the work that you do is around collaboration and helping organisations to build that culture of trust. And I think at the moment, with lots of people working from home, that's going to be really important. Are you seeing a shift around that with the people that you're working with around COVID?
Yeah, seeing really interesting stuff going on. So I've been working with lots of leaders over the last couple of months around where they're at. And interestingly, they've just seen trust just emerge in places that they didn't think they were going to, which is pretty exciting. Because people have, it's real lived experience that people are getting around two things that are really important around collaborative cultures, which is their learning cultures. So we've got to be in this unlearn space, you know, of how do we actually start to embrace where we're at, and then how are we doing that together, because we can't do it by ourselves. So in actual fact, it's a great opportunity because leaders can step in and lean into that and really let people collaborate and bubble around stuff, you know, and it's been really joyful, I think, for a lot of leaders to actually see that come to fruition.
Yeah, because it's almost, we've talked about remote working for a long time, but it never really seems to have got traction because of that level of trust. Can we trust people to do the things? It's almost like a forced experiment at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And look, I've been thinking, I work with organisations that some of them are more traditional and some of them are more innovative. And of course, we've had to move to innovation. But some organisations, what they've tried to do is just replicate the traditional way they work in the remote environment. And I think if you've got high trust, then all you'll just do is you'll just remain sort of doing the hamster wheel thing. But if you've got low trust, I'm finding that there are some people that are micromanaging and they're not letting their people deal with the fact that they might be homeschooling 5 kids if they're still in a lockdown situation, or, you know, having to deal with the isolation that comes from it. So that compassion piece is pretty important. But at the same time, when you've got high trust and you are innovating, gee, there's some amazing things that can happen. Yeah. And I reckon the low trust environments that you've got people trying to innovate, but people don't trust them to do it, they're going to lose good people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know whether you're finding that, you know. People will start to go, we'll go elsewhere if we're not able to really fly with this.
Yeah, and I think in the workplace, we're adults, people want to be trusted.
Yeah.
And now we've got your great book in the Lockdown Library, Glue, the stuff that binds us together. So tell us a little bit about the book. What was your inspiration for the book?
Well, it was really, all the work I've done in leadership has always been around building really strong teams, that you don't have one hero leader. You actually have a leader that can lead a really great learning collaborative culture to get amazing things happen. So I'm a pattern observer, I suppose, and I started to really identify a lot of patterns in collaborative cultures that thrived, and they were about trust, professional trust, and they were about having connection and compassion, and also having great conversations. So it's sort of based around those three elements of trust. And how do we move to a co-creation sort of space? A lot of people say, yeah, we collaborate, and actually when you scratch the surface, they're just pushing resources to each other. They're just sharing rather than going into a real co-design, co-construction piece. And I just think we lose so many gems. So, I just sort of put it together. It's a cross-sector one. I drew in a lot of inspiration from both education and health, where there are great pockets of deep collaboration and silos being blasted away, and sort of created just frameworks for people to think about and ways to approach. And I put it out in 2017, but I've had quite a few leaders say to me recently, you could have written this for COVID-19, Trace. You know, this is absolutely what we're needing right now. So that's been good feedback.
Yeah, and I agree. Like looking at your book now, I think one of the big challenges is collaboration because as humans, we're so used to collaborating either as a group or individually, but face to face. And whilst we've got Zoom and apps like Zoom, it doesn't feel the same. What's your feedback you're getting from people trying to collaborate at the moment?
I'm actually finding that people are. I don't know. I think there are some places where they're saying, yeah, you can't replicate the face to face, and I absolutely agree. But I just think that we've got this opportunity to talk. Sometimes I'm having teams say to me, we're actually talking about stuff that we didn't talk about face to face. So I actually don't agree that we can't do it. I think we can actually step into a different space. I've sort of coined a term recently. I'm writing my third book called Ferocious Warmth Leaders Who Connect Heads and Hearts. Um, and I've coined this term that I reckon happens at the moment. It's called professional intimacy. That because you and I are eye to eye, we're actually seeing each other in a way closer probably than if we were across a table or in a big meeting room. And so I think that we're getting, and we're seeing the cats, we're seeing the kids, where all sorts of things are happening, where our professional intimacy means that we can actually perhaps go places. We're seeking to find if you're okay, how are you traveling. We're asking questions that we probably wouldn't ask before, and it's seize the moment, I reckon, because I think we can do it.
Your new book sounds really interesting. 20 years ago, my very first mentor always said to me, never talk about your personal life at work. And I think what you're saying is the exact opposite of that now. And we're kind of seeing that now. Like you say, the kids pop in and the dog's on your lap while you're in an interview.
Yeah. And I think there's we've got some environments are terrible. Like I do a women's leadership program with doctors, surgeons, and academic researchers, and some of the heartbreaking stories of women going off and having babies and then coming back and no one even asking them about how they are, how their children are, how the baby is, all that sort of stuff, because we just don't do that here. It's just archaic, and it doesn't fit the world anymore. And so I think we've got this, it's almost like this break in the concrete to say, let's do this differently.
Yeah, it's kind of bringing the human back into work, isn't it?
You bet. Yeah, bet. It's
Yeah.
that heart-head connection going, we need both. We need strategy, we need culture. We need, the data, the evidence, but we need the stories as well, the
Yeah.
metaphors, Yeah.
Fantastic. So with your book, because obviously people can go and download Glue from the
Yep.
Lockdown Library,
Yep.
what's the kind of main message for the book? What can people take away from it and start doing maybe right now?
The main message for me is voice. That, we close out people's voices by hierarchy, status getting in the way. The person who, whenever someone comes up with a good idea, they go, that's never going to work here. The whole lack of psychological safety is killing creativity, killing innovation, killing just people doing their best. So the whole book is really about how do we create that environment where people's voices helping to co-create and do the extraordinary work. So that would be it in a nutshell, voice.
Yeah. And so for leaders, it's really about allowing people to have that space to talk. What can we do as individuals to make sure that our voice is there and heard?
There's probably that two sides, isn't it? It's what's my contribution. So, I often ask people to think about how, when they come to the table, what are they like? Are they, the enlightener who, lets everyone know that they've got the answers? Are they the waste of space who actually just sit on their phone and text under the table? Are they wasted spaces because there's no space for them to speak? So when do they actually need to step in, hold their shoulders a bit strong and say, I've got something to put forward here? And so there's that courage. But that it's so much about everyone's behaviours of we actually see each other and we value each other's opinions. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so how do people work with you? How do people get in touch with you? And what's the sort of work that they can expect to do with you?
You can get in touch with me via website, good old Tracey at traceyezard.com. I'm on on LinkedIn, etc. It'd be lovely to connect with LinkedIn. Do a lot of posts and articles on LinkedIn as well. I tend to work with organisations. Sometimes I do, so I'll keynote speak at a conference. Then I'll often go and work with leadership teams, helping them to build their leadership, their Ferocious Warmth Leadership. But also I'll work with whole organisations around how do we build a collaborative learning culture. So learning is the new, the skill that we've all got to have as an organisation. So I work, in various ways within an organisation to build those skills, because they're new skills often for leaders, is creating that psychological safe environment for learning and being the lead learner ourselves. So
yeah. Fantastic. And I love that, because I think sometimes the higher up the hierarchy people get, the more they feel they know and the less learning they're inclined to do.
that's it.
And like you say, right now, it's all about learning because nobody knows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's one of the key things of great leaders that I've found over the years working with lots of leaders. The more experienced leaders, the more expertise the leader, the more learning that they do, the better the leader they are.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It was so
Welcome.
good to talk to you.
Really
Yes,
good
and
talking to you.
people just download the book, have a read of the book, and yeah, follow you on social media, because you do post
Yeah.
some really awesome stuff on LinkedIn, and
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks,
and I
Vic.
follow.
Yeah, thanks, Vic. Yeah, it's been
Brilliant.
great having a chat, and I just love what you're doing, because you're just getting some great stuff. There's so many people have put great books up there, and I think you're awesome at giving this out for people. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tracy. I'll speak to you soon. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.